All right, hello, and welcome back to some more book reviews. I am going to review a book that's part of a series. I thought at first I was going to individually give like a book review of this series, but first of all, the other books are back home in Bulgaria, so that could take a while. And second of all, so far every single book in this series is easily 5 stars. And I mean, yeah, no, I'll just leave it at that, 5 stars. Like, I already plan on going back and reading this series. This author is my personally favorite author, and cannot recommend enough of Brandon Sanderson's Stormlight Archive. This is the 4th book. I just finished it, Rhythm of War. Oh my goodness. This is an incredible, incredible series. Don't let the size fool you. If you are someone who's like intimidated by big books, don't let that fool you, because each and every page is packed full of awesomeness. I would say that if you were going to get into a series like this, the hardest part would be like the first 5 or 6 chapters of the first book, The Way of Kings, because you're not quite sure, if you've never read a high fantasy book or a book of this weight or magnitude before, then yeah, it might be a little bit like, is this really that interesting? But then you get into it, and Way of Kings is amazing. That's the first book. Then the second book, Words of Radiance, even more amazing. The third book, Oathbringer, like the epic scenes that you get from the first 2 books, you don't necessarily get in that third book, but by then you're so enwrapped into the whole world that Sanderson has created by that point that Oathbringer is still just incredible, with so much backstory and still a few really great epic scenes. The way he's able to describe things, the way he puts this, like, he has these books in a certain way where he has part 1 and then he has interludes and then he does the next part, and it's just incredible how he's able to pack this in. His biggest book was Oathbringer, and I think that one was 1,300 pages. This one was 1,200 pages, and it's just, they are incredible. Rhythm of War was really great. I don't want to say anything to spoil anything, because there's just so much happening here, but it's a really incredible read. I can't give a high enough rating to these series or to the author. So if you are kind of interested in maybe reading a book like this, but you want to test the waters, you could try some of his standalone books. I've read, I'm trying to think, the one that always comes to mind is A Frugal Wizard's Guide to Medieval England. That one is a really great one. It's short, it's standalone, you can read it, and it doesn't necessarily connect to anything else. It's an incredible book. It gives an idea of how well Sanderson can be humorous. He writes, there's a little romance in that story. There's a bit of, how do you mix fantasy and sci-fi? But he did that in that book, so that's pretty cool. There's also novellas that go between these books, but could be standalone. So if you're looking at maybe a novella to get kind of a hint at what this series might be like, I highly recommend Edge Dancer. Edge Dancer is taking one character that at the beginning was not so emphasized. Later on in his other books, in this book, she is emphasized. But you could read Edge Dancer by itself, not know anything about the world, but then get kind of a taste of kind of like how the magic works in the world, things like that. There's 2 novellas, but Edge Dancer, I was talking with a friend of mine, and she and I both agree that Edge Dancer was just really great, and we loved it. The other one, Dawn Shard, was informative. It was interesting because, he's always interesting, but in the end, it was not necessarily that kind of novella that stuck with you afterwards. So, I would definitely recommend those if you don't want to jump into such a heavy book. But my goodness, I love this series so much. And, it is the best, I don't know, 25 to 30 dollars that you could ever spend, because this is a book, depending on the speed that you read, that like this will give you many hours of good and awesome times. Plus, because I'm giving it 5 stars, I know I'm gonna definitely reread this book, share it with friends, this kind of stuff. So it is definitely worth it. As far as like spice goes, this series, at least, I haven't read all of Sanderson's stuff. I've seen memes that talk about how he's not a very spicy writer. So I would agree with that. On a spice level of 1 to 5, I would still say that it could be a 2. In this particular book, I would say it was a 2. There was a scene where you kind of got the insinuation of, what they were doing. Like, they were saying, and then he was grazing her bare back, and, she was laying on his chest. So it wasn't so detailed as far as what was actually going on, but still a little bit. So I could say that the spice was, about a 2. And then there is, of course, romance in the book, just not so central. So I would put it between a 1 and a 2, but I'd say a 2 because the 1, I would say, is more dedicated to non-romance books or books that just involve like a kiss, and that's it. So but his other books, I would say, are not very, not even that. Like, that was the spiciest I felt that I got from him so far. So, and then as far as like where, for this book, I'm going to pretend this is like actually Way of Kings, because if you're reviewing this, then you are either someone who's read the first 3 books and you really want to know more about this one. So, and I'll tell you, what Rhythm of War is. If you're a brand new Sanderson's fan, you've never heard this Stormlight archive before, then if you're reading Way of Kings, you're probably going to get, like, it's going to take you a few chapters, a little bit into the book before it becomes an interesting read. I'd say hold out, because he's trying to get this epic world of his, introduced to you, and it's really hard because he's going to kind of do a lot of name dropping, and you're like, oh, am I supposed to remember this person? Am I supposed to remember that power? And don't worry about it, because he does such a great job of circling back, especially to those important characters. But that is kind of where you would be at Way of Kings before you started getting interested in the book. And then the interest really picks up speed. And then, somewhere like there, this last section gets really intense if you're reading Way of Kings. For this one, if you're reading this one, that means that you're already into the Stormlight archive, which means pretty much from, something like here, you're like already hooked, because you already are trying to see what happened from the last book, and you're kind of brought in and whatever. And then, I Can't Put It Down, of course, gets, I don't know, for me, it was like even like further in here, because a crucial thing happened and you're just like, what the heck? I need that to get resolved, and then I'll stop reading it because I assume that it'll get resolved here, but it didn't. It just was like really intense. And then for me, like, there was a new section, which is this last section here, where it was just like, not only could I not put it down, but it's like just so intense. One of the things I just love about a book, I don't care what emotion it is, if it creates anger, if it creates tears of joy or tears of anguish, sadness or happiness, or, any kind of emotion that can be evoked where it creates a physical response of some kind for me, then that is a book I truly love. Like, my 5 stars usually involve a book that can do that. Surprise, like literally any emotion that you can genuinely pull out of me, then I'm going to give you 5 stars usually from that book. This one definitely got that. Of course, all of the books do that. There's always a period, for me at least, where I will be reading a part and There will be some kind of physical emotion that comes up because of this, the way he writes. And I know that because with Words of Radiance and with Oathbringer, I was in a public place, and this shows me even more because in general, like if I'm gonna get emotional, if I'm in my home, if I'm alone, it's easy. Like it doesn't take a lot. I can get onto YouTube and pull up a number of random videos that could easily just make me teary-eyed, right? So being at home and getting emotional from the book is one thing, but when you're in a public place, for me, it's nearly impossible because I'm just so hyper aware of the people around me that there's just no way. I'm pretty sure that if a loved one passed away and I was told that news in public, I would have to get home so I could grieve properly. You understand what I mean? Like that kind of stuff. So when I read these books, the Oathbringer and the Words of Radiance, and I get this emotional trigger, then I know that, like I'm actually tearing up in the Starbucks from Oathbringer, and I'm like, yeah, so this is a good book. And it's like I tried to close it. I'm like, nope, I can't do this here. But it's like even knowing what is coming without the words, it's so intense. So I love it. I cannot recommend these enough. So if you're looking for a good book and you need some time to kill, then I would recommend Brandon Sanderson's Stormlight Archive. There are 10 books planned in the series. The 5th one just came out last year, so the 6th one is probably not going to be out for another year or two. So, hey, if this is your first book you're going to start, it's a great time to get started to be in line for the 6th one. But I already know for sure, because each one of these books kind of leaves, it has closure to the main idea of what's going on, but then it always leaves you with a little bit of like, and here is what you need to look forward to. So I already know that Wind and Truth, the 5th book, is going to be frustrating for me to read because I will want so badly to know what happens next. So hope this has been helpful to you. Thank you so much for watching, and enjoy your reading.